welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is our third video. I hope you're having a good day. So this chapter, do you have cell service? We continue exploring different cells of the body. Liver, lung, brain, sweat glands, and blood cells, and what they do to keep us alive. So this is a big one today, is problem number 2. We're going to be learning a lot about what's happening inside our cells and organs when we fail to survive. Or, on the flip side, positively, what's happening in our cells for us to survive. So, not surviving or surviving, but what our cells are doing to help us stay alive, and what happens if we don't. So we're going to focus a lot more on problem 2 today as we move ahead of slides. So keep up, pay attention, and I hope you find it interesting. Alright, welcome. This is slide 26. In your notebook, please write slide 26. And we've been talking about these little membrane-contained things, these things that have these thin membranes that coat and separate sections in eukaryotic cells. Eukaryotic cells have lots of membranes or thin coatings that contain important stuff and that do important things for the cell. These are all different things we call organelles. Organelles are organs or structures inside the cell coated or wrapped within a thin membrane. Remember, a membrane is just a thin material that separates two areas. So this membrane is blue, thin and blue. This is a green thin membrane, thin red, and a purple membrane for the nucleus. All right, once you get this definition on slide 26, then think and go back to slide 21. In slide 21, you came up with a brainstorm web. Compare this cell model to your brainstorm web. Do you see any ideas from your bubbles in your brainstorm web? Do you see any of those structures or parts of the cell in this model? Is there anything that you placed in the outer bubble here that matches or that you see here in this cell? So right here, how many of your ideas from this brainstorm web do you match and see here in this picture? So on slide 26 here, the first question, just write how many bubbles here you see in this cell. And the second question is how many organelles makes this cell? So how many organelles or structures within this cell do you see that are coated or wrapped in a membrane? A colorful membrane. I'll help you out. You have the outer membrane, the cell membrane. It's colored white. You have membranes coating the mitochondria. That's 1, 2. There's a membrane inside the mitochondria. That's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Keep counting all the membranes and then put the total here for this beautiful eukaryotic cell model. All right, this is slide 27. In your notebook, please write slide 27. This definition is cell membrane, finally. So we've talked about the word membrane. We've mentioned a word called organelles. But the cell membrane is a very important membrane. It says it's the boundary between the cell and its environment. So the cell membrane is the outer coating of a cell. This is the cell membrane. It's the outer membrane. So inside the cell, it's complicated. Inside the cell, there's lots of membranes. But there's only one cell membrane, and it's the outside of the cell, colored white in this model. The cell membrane in this example is green, but it coats the outside of the cell. It's the membrane that kind of contains everything. It coats, it goes all the way around the whole cell body. And it decides what goes in and out from the outside environment to the inside of the cell. It has important functions. It protects the cell. You can see it's like armor. It maintains a safe internal environment. And it transports materials in and out. As you can see here, here's transporter protein, and it lets things in and out. All right, let's think of some important things that the cell membrane does. It says in your notebook, Predict the function of the cell membrane in each image in A, B, C, and D. You have image A, image B, image C, and image D. All of these images represent an important function. There's 1, 2, 3 functions. Which of these pictures shows protecting the cell, or the function of the cell membrane that is protection? Which one of these images shows the function maintaining a safe internal environment, or keeping the cell safe? And which ones of these images shows you transporting materials in and out of the cell? Again, these are all functions of the cell membrane. All right, answering slide 27 might be hard. The images might look smaller, so I'm going to blow it up. So it's still the same questions. This is still slide 27, but let's pretend it's slide 27. And I'm going to zoom in just so you can answer it a little better. So we have our 4 images, and here are the 3 functions of a cell membrane. What you want to do is list what function you think image A shows. Is it function number 1, to protect? Is image A number 2 function, maintaining a safe internal environment? Or do you think image image A is the function of transporting materials in and out? You decide. It's a woman slapping a guy's face. So the guy's face is made of cells, his skin cells, and in this situation, getting slapped in the face, is his cell membrane of his skin cells, is it protecting him? Would it be function number 1? Would it be function number 2? Is it maintaining a safe internal environment? Or is the membrane transporting materials in and out? What function of the cell membrane is important here when getting slapped in the face? So you would write A, function equals, and you would write function 1, 2, or 3. And then you would say IC, and it would be, I'll help you with function or image A. So I'm going to give you the answer to image A's, and then you can finish B, C, and D on your own. So it says function equals, I would say number 1. If you get slapped in the face, you want your cell membrane to protect. So I would write function equals number 1, protect. And then I would say, in your notebook, you would write this, I see slapped face. So I see a slapped face, and the cell membrane helps by protecting the skin cells from damage. All right, again, here's the example. It said image A, the function is 1, which is to protect the face, right? Function equals number 1, to protect. I see a slapped face, and the cell membrane helps by protecting skin cells when slapped. You need to do image B, and here's a little description of what's happening in B. You need to do image C, and you can see there's a little description of C. And you need to do D right here. And here's a picture of D, and it's a model with labels. You need to decide which function is occurring for B, C, and D, just like I did for A. This blank right here for B and the blank is and the blank and the blank. This blank is always going to be cell membrane. So I want you practicing using the word cell membrane and decide how it helps the cell. So the cell membrane helps by, and then write what you think. Good luck. All right, next, do you remember this slide? We are learning about cell membranes and what they do, what function they have for the cells. So go back to your old slide 65 and highlight cell membrane in the What Have I Become old chapter. So go to What Have I Become, slide 65, and highlight the word cell membrane. Do it for Ellie Mae. My bad. Ella Mae, not Ellie Mae. I wish her name was Ellie Mae. No, it's Ella Mae. I'm cool. Promise. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have slide 30 here. In your notebook, please write slide 30. And we have a great definition called selective permeability. Selective permeability is a fancy word that says the cell membrane, the outer coating of a cell, decides which chemicals and molecules move in or out of the cell. So if this is a membrane, some things go through and some don't. You can see the small particles can fit through over here, but these larger particles or larger molecules cannot go the other way. You can see this membrane here also can select. Small red particles can go through, but the larger pink particles cannot fit through. So it selects, or is selective, what can go through and what can go in or out. Same thing with this membrane. This gold membrane here selects what goes through. The pink particles can go through. The green particles can go through. The gold particles can go through. But these red blood cells cannot go through the membrane. So the cells can decide what goes in and out of them. That's called selective permeability. All right, selective permeability is important, and we're going to talk about how your blood cells, your lung cells, your sweat gland cells, your liver cell, and your brain cell use selective permeability to keep us healthy. All right, for slide 30, we have 5 different cell types, which we just discussed. And you want to think about how are they using selective permeability? How do they decide what goes in and out of their cells? You want certain things going in and out of blood cells. You want certain things going in and out of lung cells. You want certain molecules or things going through brain cells and on to the liver and sweat. The question is what do they select to go through in and out of their cells? What do they want to go in and out? What are they permeable to? Permeable means letting things go through. So it says match the situation below. So you have 4 situations, situation A, B, C, and D. And you have cells above. It says match the situation to the cell above. So in your notebook for slide 30, please write number 1, A, B, C, and D, and write these situations down. And then we're going to fill in the blank with what cell you think. I'm going to help you do number 1. So in my notebook, I would write A and the situation, releasing salt solution through a membrane. So salty water is being released through a membrane. Now, what's salty that your body releases? Well, it's sweat. So in situation A, I would write situation, releasing salt solution through a membrane equals sweat gland cells. And that's cell number 5 here, sweat gland cells. And I would write sweat gland cells in this blank. Your job is to look at situation B, copy it down, and fill in the blank for what cell you think transports oxygen out and carbon dioxide within. Then you have situation C. Which cell do you think transports toxins through the membrane for removal? Remember, these cells are all doing selective permeability. They're deciding what goes in and out. Situation D is transporting emotion hormones out of the cell. So these cells want to pump emotion hormones out of the cell. Which cell of the body do you think is involved with emotions? All right, the second activity to do for slide 30 is to argue your choice. It says for 2, but just do 1. For 1 match you made for situation A, B, C, or D. I came up with an example. I just made it up. I thought of bone cells. Bone cells are important. I said, I think bone cell matches to a calcium situation because bones need calcium. You see? This is just an example. Bones rely on calcium atoms, and they select calcium to be absorbed because the bone cells need it for health. Here's yours. So I want you to pick situation A, B, C, or D, and you say, I think blank situation. You would write A, B, C, or D, and you would say, I think this situation matches this cell. So what cell do you think is part of it? And why do you think it's a match? Why do you think that situation and that cell match? Explain.